Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Fourth and Forever, brought to you by Roundtable Sports. Finally, we had the damn first night of the NFL draft. And I got to tell you what, today's segment is winners and losers. And while some teams ended up moving up for some egregious draft compensation, I think players fell at the appropriate spot. I'm not particularly mad at where players fell. Perhaps at a couple of teams of going a direction where I thought that they would go a completely opposite direction. But rest be assured, day one of the NFL draft delivered. And it just goes to show you, don't pay attention to PFF big boards or mock draft simulators or even Daniel Jeremiah and these mock draft experts, because no one knows absolutely anything when it comes in to where these specific players fall. Richie, how you doing, man? Talk to me.
Doing great. We got my boy Dose of Dion here filling in for TD Finn's talk. TD, if you guys are wondering, he's not in Green Bay anymore. He took a flight back home today. So it's my boy Troy filling in. And day one was awesome. I mean, we had a lot of exclusive access at Radio Row last night. Shout out to everybody that was part of the live stream. We were live all over the place last night. We were live on YouTube. We were live on Roundtable Sports, my channel, Dose of Dion's channel, Bass, TD, Finn. It was great stuff. And I'm excited to break down all things in the first round of the NFL draft. A lot of shocking things, but also not shocking things happened. And he did not have his boy drafted to the Lions in one of his mock drafts because he's a no ball. So we're gonna get into that.
Oh man, it's funny about TD too, because that man went to extreme lengths to save a couple of $100. Dude flew into Chicago, drove to Green Bay, and then woke up at the crack ass of dawn to drive back to Chicago this morning to catch his flight. I'm not sure about you guys, but when it comes into convenience for me, I'll spend an extra couple $100 if it means that I don't need to be fighting the NFL draft traffic out of Green Bay, only to go into damn Chicago traffic to somehow hopefully catch my flight on time to save $130. I'm good, man. And so I'll swipe the card and just move on. And so I'm not sure if y'all are wired that way, but that's not
how TD's wired. I'll tell you that much.
Dude, to save $1, I get it, but damn.
Yeah, man, he was gone. He was gone at 5 a.m, bro. He was leaving the Airbnb on his way to Chicago. So it's an interesting time. And someone in the chat asked if Bass is still here. Yes, Bass is here. He's in the other room doing some Packers content. So tonight it's going to be me, Bass, and Dose of Dion live from Radio Row.
By the way, I did catch TD putting Pepsis in his pockets on the way out. So we can note that as well. Yeah.
So he was ripping some Pepsis from the facility. Hey, you know what, man? Monsters. Why not? Troy, first NFL event, right? Or you've been to the Combine before, as a media person, or is this your first event, right as a media guy?
Yeah, as media. It's media. The only things I've done is Lions connected things. I was at OTAs one time. I got an invite to that. I've been to a draft before. I was in Vegas in 2022, but it wasn't for media. It was kind of for media, but it wasn't media credentialed. It was hey, record some stuff for us. But outside of that, it's really the first main thing media-wise.
So what do you make of it so far? What's your first experience?
I'm shocked. I'm shocked at how much they offer for media. I didn't expect this. I'm surprised at how much they kind of just lay out for the media to be yo, get access to everything. They seem super, and maybe it's a Green Bay thing, but they seem super welcoming. We want you to have an amazing experience, to push it to everybody of how amazing the draft is. And I think they've delivered on that really well.
So one thing I'm curious about, because when we were in New Orleans for the Super Bowl, when I tell you that they threw the most extra bougie party for media I have ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
They did that. I'm talking, they rented out 5 warehouses directly. And you're just seeing every single media member that you see on television, that you see across local, getting absolutely smashed. They had fire dancers and stuff, 6 different stages. It was insane. Did they have a party for the media in Green Bay?
No, there was no media party. The media party was really Wednesday's access all day long, which was the special thing that we got. A tour of the whole stage. That video I basically posted is all what we got. And it was really, really cool. And the media was exclusive. We got to see the behind the scenes of what it's like to be an NFL prospect. be in the green room, walk the stage, walk down the hallway, walk the red carpet, see Lambeau Field behind the scenes, all that stuff is really what they had. And then they fed us well, at Radio Row. They had a buffet for us for dinner and lunch and stuff, had snacks throughout the night. And, all of a sudden they bring out some snacks. I'm eating these like super spicy Doritos. I'm like, oh shit, should probably eat those right now. But yeah, they're accommodating extremely well. And there is one thing I am, as you know, I'm a little perfectionist. Have you grown to learn, Dan?
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry about that. I guess it's a good quality, also a bad quality.
No, it's good. Yeah, it's good.
But there's one thing I really wish that we did last night, and we talked about on the phone. What we're doing next year at the draft is we're gonna have one person that's with Roundtable Sports at the draft. That's their seat is at the press conference the entire time. They record the press conference of the specific prospect. They start it, end it, and they post it right away to Roundtable Sports immediately, because that's the one thing we did not get. Like Jay Tuck, for example, he was there and he had a sick. He recorded the entire Tyler Booker interview. He posted on his channel. Bass got the whole Matthew Golden interview for his channel. So we need someone there for Roundtable recording every single thing and uploading it in real time first. So Roundtable Sports has literally every single press conference for every single first round pick on their YouTube channel. It's the one thing that we didn't do, which I wish we did, but that'll happen next year.
Dude, you know what, man? It is a learning process over
pissed.
here.
I was like driving here and I'm like, Troy, I'm pissed right now. He's like, why? What's wrong? I'm like, I can't believe we didn't do that. Like, we should have all the press conferences up right now on all socials, Roundtable Sports exclusive. But hey, man, I just gotta live with it.
Well, hey, let me tell you what. Now, Radio Row. So is it like right in the same proximity as the stadium or as the main stage was, or was it a bit
right
away?
behind the draft? It's right behind the stage. It's literally the same. It's like the building's connected. So like there's a tunnel. Like we literally, I was going to get a snack and I see Ted McMillan walking through Radio Row, and then he goes to get interviewed. So like and then as we're walking out of Radio Row, we see Matthew Golden walking out. And then I'm like, yo, Bass, your boy's coming up. He didn't know what I was talking about. And he looks, it's Matthew Golden walking out. He gives him a little fist pump. Cool. So we had access to all the prospects behind the stage, but we just didn't really prioritize the press conference, because I think what we prioritized last night was the live stream, which is I'm not complaining about it, but next year we're definitely going to have a designated Roundtable Sports guy at every single press conference, recording every single interview and posting it in real time.
Dude, you know what, man? So much.
We needed you here, Dan. It's okay.
I know, man. Listen, like I've been living vicariously through you guys, but next year when it's in Pittsburgh next year.
Yeah,
I'll roll up to that one.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I'll roll up to the Pittsburgh situation. Another football city, indeed. But yeah, dude, like crazy stuff happened last night. Like, I'm not sure about you guys. I did not see Jacksonville trading up to the second overall pick to grab Travis Hunter.
Love that for them, bro.
That was, from what I saw, like the definition of a smokescreen, because what was dominating the headlines all leading up to the draft? Oh, they're going to shock the world and take Ashton Genty at 5. Could still be Mason Graham, but watch for them to take that. But no, they traded all the way up to number 2 to grab Travis Hunter. And they had that mentality of the F those picks. And I don't necessarily hate it either, because you think about the Jacksonville Jaguars from a personnel standpoint. I actually put them in a similar boat to the New York Jets, where I feel like that they're not necessarily living up to their potential as far as personnel is concerned. Maybe it was coaching, what have you. But adding Travis Hunter to that team, and I guess it's still left to be determined of whether or not that they plan on making him predominantly a wide receiver or predominantly a DB. I don't hate that at all. And dare I say, I might have Jacksonville as my first winner of the first night of the NFL draft. I'm not sure about y'all's thoughts there.
No, that's a big swing. I mean, what we did hear going into the draft, Dan, was that the Browns were aggressively shopping that pick, and that we also heard that there's some teams in the top 10 that's aggressively trying to trade up to that number 2 spot. That's all we knew. And there were people speculating which teams it was going to be, and we didn't know which one it was, but it happened to be Jacksonville. That is such a big move for the Jaguars. I really do think the Jaguars just hit a home run, because this is a generational talent that you're never going to see a guy like this come around in the NFL draft. So worth giving up your first round pick next year. It was a big price to pay. Also, the Browns benefited from this. I did not think Travis Hunter was going to do anything in the Browns. I'm really happy that he's not in Cleveland as just a football
Yeah.
fan. I think Jacksonville's a good spot for him because they have Brian Thomas Jr., and that's going to be a dynamic 1-2 punch. They have a quarterback that obviously has not lived up to the hype yet, but he still has upside, in my opinion, with a brand new head coach, brand new system. And Duval is going to endure Travis Hunter. That's a football city right there. And I'm excited to see what they look like. And I think that the Jaguars are going to make some noise. And I think Travis Hunter, that's an explosive playmaker. So I'm excited. I think he's going to play primarily wide receiver, and he's going to sprinkle in some corner. He's definitely going to play both ways. If there's a team that's going to give Travis Hunter the freedom to be Travis Hunter, I think it is the Jaguars. And I think that, having that interview with him Wednesday when I asked him to model your game after anybody, he's like, I just go out there and meet Travis. That's just who he is. So, Troy, what was your thoughts of the Jaguars trading on up to get Hunter?
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw this morning that they said their plan was like receiver, and then we'll have him in the DB room, but he's going to come in as a receiver for us. I found that interesting because I think when you look at the roster, the receiving core is not bad, and they've invested there, but they haven't put like big money. This whole offseason was all middling deals. It was kind of like, it felt safe. De'Ami Brown, Gabe Davis, and they have Brian Thomas. Like, they have a nice receiving core, but the fact that you're putting him in an offense, it like screams that's why they went up and got him, because they had a plan for him, and they're like, let's be special at receiver. Let's not be good. Let's be special. So their big investment wasn't free agency. It was through the draft. So I like the swing because it felt like a conviction type of swing. You're not just making that move like, oh yeah, we're putting him at corner because we need a corner and he'll play a little receiver. The move was, you're a receiver, and this is going to be a special receiving group, and we're going to get Trevor Lawrence right, because if that's not right, then nothing else really matters since we paid him. So I feel like that's it's fun because it's the team that has that kind of buy-in to do it. It makes sense.
So y'all are on the same page where you think that he's predominantly going to be used as a wide receiver and just situationally at the CB role?
Yeah, I think so. But I think he's going to play corner more than we think too.
Yeah.
I think if there was a team that's going to give him that flexibility to be Travis Hunter, it's the Jaguars. Like, they're like I feel like an open team, brand new coach. They're not like stern in their ways yet. They don't really have an established culture. They're trying to find the culture, find an identity. And I think their identity is going to be around Travis Hunter.
Yeah. It's going to be a fun
interesting.
Team.
Very, very interesting. Now, I'd probably have to give the Browns a pretty big winner yesterday as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a win-win. I think the Browns, if the Browns drafted Travis Hunter, I don't think I would be hyping up the Browns like I am with the Jaguars. But the Browns getting an extra first next year and another second this year, they're definitely set up right now, the Cleveland Browns. So I think that was a really win-win for both teams.
Yeah.
And landing Mason Graham, of course.
So they have 2 second-round picks in the first 5 this evening, right? So the first pick of the second, and then they also ultimately have one a bit. I think it's the 5th selection right in the second. Do y'all think they're going Shedeur, or do you think Shedeur falls even more? Because they have 2 in the top 5 tonight. And nothing broke my heart. And yes, I do have empathy for him, right? Than watching that man fall out of the first entirely. Especially since the Giants go out there and just give like the biggest backhand on the face.
I called that, Dan. Remember what I said yesterday?
You did. Yeah. You did that they were going to go up for Dart rather than Shedeur. But why do I have a gut feeling that Shedeur is not going to be selected by the Cleveland Browns, despite the fact they have 2 of the first 5 picks in the second round? Troy, starting off with you.
I think you're right, and it's sad a little bit because it makes a ton of sense. It's like, oh yeah, the Browns are sitting there. Why do they need to move up? But we've heard nothing about that. And immediately when the trade happened, the only buzz that came out was like, oh, the Browns are now loaded for a quarterback next year. And I think about from a team building, if you look at the Browns, they need help everywhere. O-line, receiver, everything needs help. If you're a team that's in that spot and they're comfortable with their GM and head coach, which they seem to be, because otherwise it feels like they would have been more aggressive than Kenny Pickett. If they're comfortable that they're going to be here next year, the best thing you can do, I would think, is in a draft that's heavy in 15 to 50, where it's all a mess. Draft those guys, get your pieces there, give them a year to become what you're comfortable with. That way, when you plug the quarterback in, it's ready to go. So my guess would be that they're not going to take him with those 2 picks.
So where is he falling? For me, I think he's a Saint. I think the Saints are going to pull the trigger in the second. That's where I think he ultimately ends up falling. I don't think he's going to fall out of the second round. I think a team's going to roll the dice. What would be very dramatic and traumatic would be if Jalen Milroe goes before. Shedeur Sanders. I'm not going to go out and say that it's going to happen, but at this point, especially after last night, I would not be shocked in the slightest. Richie, are the Browns going to select Shedeur, or will he fall even further than that?
I honestly have no idea, bro. At this point, it's tougher to make a prediction at this point. I don't know. You look at the top of the second round, like there's quarterback needy teams still in this draft, and there's not a lot of quarterbacks that went. Only 2 went last night. Obviously, Cam Ward and Dart. The Saints need a quarterback. The Raiders would like a quarterback behind Geno, I would assume, right? Like that was another team that could be in the mix of Shedeur.
Steelers, so.
The Steelers, of course. Like, could the Raiders get Shedeur and have Ashton Genty and Shedeur Sanders as their first and second round picks? Like, that would kind of be nuts, because how many mock drafts did we see that Shedeur Sanders go to 6 to the Raiders early on in the process? So that would be crazy. The Raiders coming away with Genty and Shedeur. He gets to sit behind Geno Smith, has a connection with Geno, has a connection with Tom Brady. I think the Raiders still make a lot of sense. I don't know where they picked, though, in the second round.
I think they do pick in the second round. I think
early.
They do. But I think the weird thing is, they say Steelers. I don't think the Steelers have a second round pick, so that'll be something to announce. Yeah, they don't. They have a gap. So if they're going to try to do that, they're going to have to pull some things together, which makes me believe that.
In fact,
why they don't have a second
it's
DK.
I think so. Yeah.
So I know it's not even so much the loser segment yet, but I did not understand the Pittsburgh Steelers pick last night. I didn't.
Yeah.
Like you just said, they don't have a second round pick, right? Mason Rudolph is currently QB1. I have a feeling that the Steelers know something about Aaron Rodgers that the media does not know.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he has given confidence in Tomlin, and he was like, dude, yeah, I'm going to play. He's like, dude, I'm like 95% sure that I'm going to play. Just hold your horses. It's got to be something that the Steelers front office knows internally, as into not going for a QB, right? Because they probably would have went with Dart. Maybe they would have went with Shedeur. I'm not particularly sure. But what I hated about the Steelers pick was it's not even so much ignoring the quarterback position. Them going out there and selecting yet another 3-tech defensive tackle, where their defensive line is one of the only redeeming factors and the reason why they win all the time, and ignoring a lot of what was their big issue last year, which I thought was more so the offensive line. So I thought Donovan Jackson, so the guy that ended up going over to Minnesota, I thought that would have been a good pick for them. I even would have been okay if they took Connerly, and I would have been okay if they reached for Josh Simmons as well. So to attack that offensive line, right? Maybe like take a swing on somebody else within the secondary out on the perimeter. Right. I'm not sure about you guys, but I hated that pick for Pittsburgh.
Dan, looking at that depth chart right now, like that looks like, I'm not saying it's going to work. That looks like a team that draft pick was, we think we can go crazy in the playoffs. Like, this team thinks they can go far. If you look at the way that they got to believe it. I mean, you take Harmon, I'm looking at the team. That's like a last plug-in spot to the defensive line. They either have big names on the front seven, or they have Darius Slay, who they added this offseason, to your point, signed him free agency. They went veterans for free agency. So this feels like a team that actually thinks if they plug Rodgers in, they're going to make noise. And I guess I get it because they're typically a playoff team, but
yeah.
I hear what you're saying. I'm with you on it. It just feels like the fans maybe think they're in a different spot than what the Steelers believe that they're in. They believe that they're close, so they believe that maybe they could actually do it, and Rodgers would be the difference.
Yeah, but
so
they don't have Rodgers.
So pouring gasoline on the fire is what they were doing. Like, it's crazy to me too, though, because he's solid, but he's going to be a rotational piece, right? Say that they didn't want to go QB, that's fine. But I think the next best move that they should have made was maybe offensive line, or fucking trade down, bro. Get yourself in the second round. Mm-hmm. You could have found somebody tonight, like Darius Alexander, or you could have found somebody else that's a quality 3-tech defensive tackle that you could have added that probably would have given the exact same production, since this dude is technically second on the depth chart, because it's Hayward, right? He's going to be behind him right on the depth chart immediately.
Well, just to add to that, I know a lot of people felt Harmon was similar to Hayward in play style. So so if you look at it from like a now and future, I know that they could find a way to get them both on the field. They'd just be very big up front.
Yeah.
I mean, they would have to play like a lot of 5-man fronts. I mean, you'd have Watt and Highsmith out there on the edge. Line all three of those dudes. I mean, it'd be heavy on the front. So
yeah,
it's kind of weird now, but I can understand the future outlook too there.
And so, what are your thoughts on that, Richie?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who the guy next to us was, but he was either a Shedeur Sanders fan or a Steelers fan that wanted them to draft Sanders. When the Steelers announced their pick, there were so many people in the radio row like glued to that announcement. And when they did not go Shedeur, the whole radio row had a gasp, like, "What? No!" Like everybody wanted to see Shedeur go to Pittsburgh. And there was someone next to us that was losing his mind. He's like, "No!" Oh, he was like freaking out, went to the corner, was like staring at the wall, like contemplating his life. Like that was a serious thing. I think a lot of Steelers fans was committed like to the buzz and the hype around it. I don't get it. I really don't. This tells you that they're confident in Rodgers, even though they said that the Aaron Rodgers situation is not going to impact their draft plans. And that, I guess, tells you that. Maybe we're expecting Rodgers to sign in the next month or so. But I just don't get that pick. I guess it's a win now move, and they're trying to win now. But you're not winning with freaking Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson. So I don't know, man.
Now, what else stuck out to you guys right in the first round? Like, what was like something that could be like, holy shit, like this is a game-changing move in the positive direction, a winner, or like what was something that just like shocked you from one extreme to the other, like winner or a loser?
Yeah, what shocked me was the Atlanta Falcons trading back up and sacrificing a first-round pick next year for Pierce. Pierce is a really good player. They come away with 2 blue-chip defensive players. Yeah, that's a shocking move, but I think that's a big swing. And I get it. If you look at it from this perspective, they sacrificed a first-round pick next year in order to come away with 2 first-round picks this year. So if you look at it from that lens, I guess it makes sense. They're trying to get a head start on that and have 2 first-round picks in one class. That's definitely a big swing, and I know you were really high on that, what the Falcons did. You love what the Falcons did?
Well, I love the players. I think it's still weird because obviously I was huge on Jalen Walker. And Pierce, the only thing was Pierce, I think, was people had like off-the-field stuff that was popping about him that like felt like some connected. But it's a lot. It's a lot to invest in 2 edge rushers like that. But we know Atlanta, their biggest problem, they're kind of up there with New Orleans. They haven't been able to get pass rush in like 12 years. This team has not gotten pass rush in a long time. So it's like, we're not going to go a little bit. We're just going to go crazy and go get these guys because it was so jumbled up this year. And maybe because of some of the everything else that was popping up that wasn't football related allowed him to do that. So it's nuts, but everybody's getting aggressive now. It feels like it's becoming a trend now, huh? Like new teams are just getting aggressive. We're just going to take our swing and see what happens, especially these younger GMs, younger coaches. We're just going to go for it.
So you ultimately ended up getting, right, like 2 pass rushers immediately, and Walker, who is lethal with that. Then James Pierce Jr. And everyone forgets that they also ended up bringing in Leonard Floyd as well, who is probably one of the quietest defensive ends in all of football that regularly gets close to 10 sacks each and every single season. No one ever gives that man credit, but his numbers are there. Hey,
it's a fast defense.
Why not, dude? And you know what? It sounds like that they have a lot of faith that Penix is the dude, and even if he's not, he's on a rookie deal, all right? And it's not like you're going to be walking away from him next year. So I get where Atlanta came from. I really do. Sure.
No, I was going to say, do you want to keep talking about the Falcons? I have another team.
Just like
whatever team you want, man. Yeah. It's a round robin.
He has something else to say about Morris.
Yeah, I thought there was a connection there to Raheem Morris and what we're seeing with Houston. Houston's head coach, D'Amico Ryans. I thought there was like an overlap between those 2 as coaches. I could be wrong on that. But like,
probably wrong. You're wrong.
I'm probably wrong on this. But if there was an overlap, it would make sense. Hey, Houston's defense is super fast. Everybody you're talking about is very fast player, and Jalen will play off ball for them. They do need a linebacker too. So they're just like really fast in the front. And if you watch Houston last year, they look different than everybody else. That team just flew around. So that is this last note right there.
What a note, man. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I can leave now, actually.
No, we want you to stay. Your analysis.
Well, I'm just saying the point was so good. Like I feel like
give me your draft the hall.
Drop the mic and just retire, like while you're on top.
Yeah, really, bro.
Okay, fair.
Just like quit when you're on top of the world. Yeah. But another winner is the most expected winner of the draft every year. Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh yeah.
The fact that let me just break down what the Eagles did. If you guys don't know, they tried to trade up multiple times to 23 to 25 for Jahad Campbell. Failed to trade up. And then Campbell kept falling. And then they trade up one spot, give up a 5th-round pick, and they still end up with the best inside linebacker in the entire draft. That's speedy as all heck, sideline to sideline. They end up with the best player at that position. Why do we keep letting the Eagles do this?
It's because they cheat. I mean, it's one of these things where it's like, if you're going to cheat, what are we doing?
Every year it's that.
No.
Like they have they're always in the back end of the draft because they're a good team. And a player that everyone thought was going to go way earlier, they fall right to him in the laps.
But we've seen this before with them. To your point, Nakobe Dean ended up falling. A lot of people thought when he went round 3 that year, this isn't the same fall. But both of those times, there was injury-related issues that really popped up right before the draft. I know it wasn't as strong with Campbell, but there's concerns about his offseason program when he's actually going to be ready to go. I'm not saying that should impact that a ton for a team if you really love the guy, but I think for a lot of teams that also know, like, hey, we're drafting him because we need him, there's some concern of like, oh, dude, we're not going to get to see him play right away. And linebacker is one of those spots where really nobody else went. I mean, you had Jalen Walker, that's it. Nobody else went. So this is going to be an early, interesting day because I think there's multiple starters still sitting there. And then it falls off.
So they already have Zach Bond, too, back on a new deal as well, right? So, like, they could actually...
Do they still got Nakobe Dean?
Do they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Yeah.
They got Nakobe Dean, Zach Bond, and now Campbell.
Yeah.
Think of what... Dude. And think of Jahad Campbell with Vic Fangio, bro. Oh, my God.
They always draft for the future, though, right?
They always draft for the future. They never go now.
They don't have to worry about now. Yeah.
That's a young-ass defense they have right now, man. Like, they have, like, a really... solid. Oh my God.
It was great last year.
I'm sorry, Bills fans, but that's an L on the schedule for the regular season. All right. That's an L.
Facing the Eagles this year?
Yeah, we do play the Eagles this year.
L.
But and you know what? Sean McDermott has never beaten the Eagles.
You know what? The Jets never.
It is the only team the Bills have not beaten.
The Jets were like 0-12 against the Eagles until we beat them when they were 12-0 a few years ago. So you never know, Dan.
Yeah. So I think one that definitely was trending, especially with Bears fans, was the Chicago Bears selecting Colson Loveland instead of Tyler Warren. Now, Troy, he is an avid Michigan fan. An avid Michigan fan right there. Was that the right move, Troy?
Avid Michigan fan, and it's also known an avid Chicago Bears hater.
So, an avid Chicago Bears hater. So, like, he is very conflicted right here. But, like, most reports had Warren as the true tight end 1. And then Ryan Poles completely, like, flipped everything on its head, and he decided to go with Colson Loveland. Was this the right move?
I mean, well, so ultimately, Indianapolis feels like they won because of Chicago. So happy for Indy because they're like, we just sat here and got Warren at
Derek.
Derek is fired. I know he loved yesterday. I think it was the right move. When I ended up finishing it off, I had Loveland as tight end 1. But also, we know they're
why.
Well, I mean, it does matter, but at the same time, here's how I look at it. Here's my comparison for Bears fans out there. Since Ben Johnson's coming from the Lions, and we drafted Laporte, it was a different spot. Obviously, he's more of a route runner than Warren doesn't always get open. Like, for example, this is a great game. If you watch Warren against Ohio State, he struggled to get open against Ransom, who he constantly matched up with their safety. But the difference was he constantly comes down with the ball. He's like one of these trucks that you just give the ball, and he's like, find a way to give him the ball, and he'll just run over people. But I think when you're looking at Chicago and you think about the receiving core they have, we like DJ Moore, who's a good separator. They have these big bodies, though. They got the Roma Dunze's. Colston Loveland just separates on his own. And what the Lions had with Sam Laporta is at Iowa, their offense was garbage, but Sam Laporta was the entire offense. Michigan was the same way. Nobody watched Michigan offense. Like, what is this? Davis Warren's throwing passes. We didn't have an offense, but the offense was Loveland. And when he wasn't out there, they didn't have an offense. So I think it's similar to looking at a similar way. Like, their only production came from one guy and teams still couldn't stop him. So we're going to draft that guy that we can move around. And for Ben, I think they're looking at it more of, hey, it's not as much as like, oh, we give him the ball and look at him run over people. He doesn't need that, right? Ben Johnson is going to be very creative in the sense that he's going to just find matchups. All he's going to do is try to put teams in a spot where, like, you don't have a linebacker deal with Loveland. And that's going to be the problem he tries to create. It'll be the same thing with Swift. So I think he's more of a matchup beater than Warren, but Warren is going to be very consistent week in and week out. So I think he's just looking for matchups.
So a matchup beater, and then obviously maybe with Ben Johnson, he's going to be hoping that, like, you're going to be able to see a next step from Roma Dunze. same production from DJ Moore, several investments in the offensive line. So the more you explain it like that, I suppose it does make sense, right? Because more so of like the perfect prospect, somebody that does something particularly well, right? Like you like match both of those tight ends together, and you could probably say, all right, like Warren is the better this, and this, but Loveland has that one trait that fits a hell of a lot better right in our system and something we want to leverage. And so perhaps that makes sense.
I think it also helps. I think it also helps Cole Kmet too, because Cole Kmet was never a dominant receiving threat for them. But again, Ben Johnson was part of an offense that used a lot of 2 tight ends. So I don't think that having Cole Kmet should make people like confused on the pick. You'll just use multiple tight ends. In today's NFL, 12 personnel has become more of a thing because teams fail to match. They're struggling to match up with it. Teams are struggling to find linebackers that can actually match up with great tight ends. So that's become an emerging thing. And if you just go in at from a big perspective, just real quick, 2 safeties has been everything now. Everybody plays 2 deep safeties. So the emergence of tight end is taking off because everything in that second level is open. So you get guys that dominate in those spots and you're having to play 2 safeties. There's no good matchup.
And I just want to take a moment and appreciate something like the level of ball knowledge that we have here compared to TD Finstock on 4th and Forever. Like, can you imagine TD saying those type of things?
Dude, you know what? So Richie, you and I are just better when Troy is here. Like we're better.
Yeah, right? You level us up.
Dude, TD.
Yeah, you level us up and then like TD just annoys me. So like what I'll do is, it's just screaming match.
How many times has TD brought up 12 personnel and 2 single high safeties and matching up and like real football talk? You know what I mean? Like, have we ever heard TD say that?
TD's listening.
Speaking of which, so how did you feel about the Kenneth Grant pick last night? Because I crashed out. I was a little pissed off. But then again, so I do feel like that, like my expectations were a bit unrealistic.
Who did you want them to get
into those PFF mock drafts?
Yeah.
I bought into those PFF mock drafts, seeing them fall to like 24, dare I say, all the way down to 35. I was like, oh, he's going to be there. He's going to be a Bill. But then, I don't know. Solid pick for the Miami Dolphins. But Kenneth Grant, unfortunately, my friend, you are going into a losing culture. And you will be seeing a lot of the field because Tua is not going to be able to convert a first down at all with that offensive line.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I like Kenneth Grant a lot. I think it was a good pick for them in terms of as a position of need. He was the best defensive tackle available at that point, I would argue. I mean, there's a lot of D tackles in this draft, so it's definitely up for debate there. But I just feel like their team right now, the way it's constructed, it's just like they're stuck in purgatory. That's not going to take them and level up their ability to do anything this year. Just one defensive tackle. They need to find a replacement for Wilkins. But at the end of the day, I feel like you look at the Miami Dolphins, the problem with the offensive line, though, is Banks was not on the board. Membu went to the best team in the league. And, they could have went Zabel, I guess. But I think offensive line is still something that are not prioritizing. I just don't understand why. But Grant is definitely a good football player, and I think he's going to be impactful for the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, no. He's a great dude. And, it's funny to see what they do this evening. But you know what? So we have a Bills fan, a Jets fan, and a Lions fan right on the board. And I want to talk to Troy first because he selected Tyleik Williams. And that right there was, for me, my DT2. Like, that was the kind of guy that I was like, okay, if Grant is gone, then I think I'm shifting all focus over to Tyleik Williams. I don't really recall you ever having him on your list for somebody that you particularly wanted in the first round. So what was your initial reaction when you found out Campbell took the most Dan Campbell guy on the face of the planet for your first round selection?
Well, can I say this real quick? From my perspective, it sounded like he was trying to convince himself why it was a good pick. What in real time?
Dude, listen, we all do it. Hey,
we all do it. He's like, in his head, he's like, okay. He was just like, okay.
He's putting 2 and 2 together, man. He's putting 2 and 2 together.
Gotta give us.
I didn't expect it though. Like the problem I had, Dan, is when we got to that spot. One, I should have had my list up because I didn't, so I didn't even know who's. But the big thing is there's like names, right? You start to kind of expect to go, and we got to that spot, and everybody that I kind of thought would be there wasn't really there, except for Jahad Campbell, and I thought we'd have to move up to get him. So I thought they would go that direction because I just thought it made so much sense at the time. And Tyleik Williams is one of those dudes where, I had my Tyleik Williams. It was 3 months ago. This is the last time I did my thing on Tyleik. So he wasn't fresh in my mind at all. So I kind of just like put him off to the wayside. But so my initial reaction was just kind of confused. I was like, all right, this he was on my list, and I didn't even realize he was on my list because I just put Williams. That's such a common name. I didn't even know who Williams was. But then I'm gonna be honest, like I should have put a T or something first. I have no idea. But I go back and I will say this. So, and this is not post. This is true. I had the exact same grade I had on Jahad Campbell as I had on Tyreek Williams. So for me, they were at the exact same spot. It was just so. This whole draft was like this. This is why it was so hard to predict, and I think we all struggle with this at the back end. Dan probably feels the same way. You take Harrison, but you're talking about every single option that's there. This was a mess. As soon as you got to 20, it was a mess. So it was just we don't know who separates who at this spot. Yeah. And I think we saw with Donovan Jackson went to Minnesota that teams are still valuing interior. They're valuing the trenches, and we saw in the trenches everybody's gone. So it got to a point where it's like there's just nobody here anymore. So I was a little bit shocked. I just didn't expect it, to be honest with you. But looking back, it does make some sense.
It does. So who would you have preferred? It sounds like you wanted Jahad Campbell instead. Like that was the guy that you would have been freaking out over.
No, I don't think see. That's the weird thing, Dan. I didn't like Jahad. A lot of people liked Campbell way more than I did, which is why people were always kind of like, I had Jahad Campbell as linebacker 4. So everybody was really weird with it. It was like, man, we love Campbell. Like, that's the guy we got traded up. So, like, I got to the point where I was like, man, I guess he probably will go higher. Everybody else thinks he's higher. A lot of the top guys had him as a top 10 player in this draft. So I just got to the point where I was like, this guy looks like the Lion style. They'll probably go up and get him if he's in the range. So him sitting there, I was like, this is just going to make sense. You just sit there and pick him. But I didn't really have a guy. I'm going to be honest. There was no one that I couldn't even come up with this is the name that I want. I didn't know. I just thought they'd go Campbell. But I didn't have a name at that spot for me. It was just – everybody was bunched. Everybody was tight at that spot. So I didn't really have a name that stuck out. It was before the only guy, and that's why when we did our PFF, our Bleacher Report mock, by the way, I traded up to go get Jalen Walker because there wasn't a clear-cut guy for me at that spot. And that's why I was so aggressive to do it.
So aggressive to damn do it. Richie, Armand Membu. And so I feel like that was pretty much a slam dunk. How are you feeling? Is there a part of you that wishes you would have went elsewhere, or as you've slept on it, so are you happy about it?
Oh, yeah, I'm fired up. I said throughout this entire draft process, if it's Warren or Membu, I'm happy. I really don't have a preference over the other. I juggled both scenarios. And now that I slept on it and understand the pick even more, it makes way too much sense. This Jets team, and hearing Aaron Glenn talk to the media, they're building from the inside out. And when you look at what the Detroit Lions did the first year that Dan Campbell came there and Aaron Glenn came there and Brad Holmes came there, you know who their first round pick was? Penei Sewell, right tackle. And I think that they're building this offensive line the right way. And now the offensive line is like solidified, bro. I mean, you look at the Jets offensive line on paper, there's now no holes. There's 3 first-round picks and a second-round pick on this offensive line mixed in with a free agent. Like, that is how you build an offensive line. And Joe Douglas, like Jets fans, we should give Joe Douglas some credit because he brought 4 out of the 5 offensive linemen onto this football team. And now Darren Muji and the Jets just brought the sprinkle on top to solidify it. The Jets have a chance to have one of the best offensive lines in the entire league. You know who was the best tackle last year in terms of pass protection coming out of the draft? Olu Fashanu. You know who's the best pass protecting tackle coming out of this draft? Armand Membu. The New York Jets got 2 of the best pass protecting tackles in the last 2 drafts combined. That's our left tackle and our right tackle. Justin Fields should be ecstatic right now because he is going to be protected. Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, the running game is going to be mauling. The Jets are going to be a team that's going to run the football. And watch out for the Jets to go for a 4th and short. If it's 4th and 1, 4th and 2, I think they're going to go for it, be aggressive because they trust the big boys up front to push the defense down the line and pick up those short yardage situations. The Jets are going to establish a brand new identity, which is going to be physical, hard-nosed, violent football that starts in the trenches. So this fires me up. Armand Membu was a no-brainer for the New York Jets. And then AG and them said, like, yeah, we were never going to take a tight end that early. So there's a lot of smoke around Tyler Warren, but at the end of the day, they don't really value that position as high as us fans did. So It makes too much sense. 4 out of the 5 offensive linemen is set. You needed a right tackle. Armand Membu was staring you at the right there on the board, and the Jets said it was always Armand Membu. If he was available for them at 7, that was the pick, and they got their guy.
So this will probably be the best offensive line that Justin Fields has ever had.
Yeah, no
doubt. Has ever had. And
the best
I'm curious.
I've had, feels like since 2010.
I'm curious to see where y'all go. But here's my prediction of where you guys select or who you select.
Oh, tonight?
Yeah. I have a gut feeling.
Don't say it, bro.
That y'all are selecting Emin Wari from South Carolina. Safety.
That'll be sick. I don't know if he's going to be there, That will be fresh.
Yeah.
I would absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Emanwari, the safety, would be ridiculous. I do think, though, like there could be a Darius Alexander because AG did say we prioritize the trenches, and he did say don't forget about the defensive line. So that kind of made me like, is that a little teaser that we're going to go D-line in round 2? The first 2 picks is going to be offensive line, defensive line, and then let's go get the secondary and the playmaking help. Another guy that Jets fans want tonight, Dan, is Mason Taylor, since we did not get a tight end of Tyler Warren. Mason Taylor from LSU is available that a lot of Jets fans love. Jaden Higgins, of course. Luther Burden, still available. So there's a lot of options for the Jets. Darius Alexander, I think, if he's available for the Jets, I think that is a guy I would really run the table and bring him in, pair him up with Quinn Williams.
Solid, man. And I did want to ask Troy about Max Harrison, right? Because the Buffalo Bills saw a lot of the defensive tackles go off of the board. We saw literally a bunch of very high quality DBs go off. So once we got to 30, what I was trying to tell myself is I was like, okay, like we're probably going to trade down here or a Trey Amos, right?
Yeah.
But then, so we ultimately ended up selecting Maxwell Harrison, which first off, I really, really like because when it comes into ball skills, and so when it comes into recovery speed, something that I absolutely loved by watching some of the tape, like you see like so many examples, especially against the Texas game last year, where he ultimately ended up having a rep against Isaiah Bond, where it appeared that this man was burnt by about 5 to 6 yard margin, catches right on up with him. Tape against Matthew Golden. He's sticky coverage. He's right next to him. He's everything that you want from football IQ. He's a zone corner, and he runs a 4.28. So when I look at this selection for Buffalo, I think that this was a pick that wanted to address the nightmare Buffalo experienced in the AFC Championship of having slow corners that were getting burned by the likes of Xavier Worthy and also Hollywood Brown. Like they could not keep up to save their damn lives. So that's when they said, hey, you know what? Let's go on ahead and make a play for somebody like this, somebody that can travel with the Tyreek Hills of the world, somebody that can travel with the Xavier Worthys. A lot of people are concerned about his tackling, right? He had like an 8.3 missed tackle rate in 2023. But then in 2024, where he only played about halfway through the season, he did end up missing half of it due to a shoulder injury. It skyrocketed up to the teens.
Yeah.
Me personally, I really am not going to cast a player off for a trait that is coachable. When I see a player can't tackle, right, I need to see that the dude is at least willing to tackle, right? Like he's actually in their face and he's losing because of his size, right? If, for example, he's just being a little granola boy and like you can tell that like he's holding back right before he ends up wrapping his arms and making the takedown, then that's an entire different conversation. I'm not so much concerned about his propensity to miss a tackle here and there. When you have everything that Buffalo is missing in the first place at the CB2 position, in the ball skills, in the speed, right in the coverage, his zone awareness, his ability to literally identify multiple routes, not even from the player that he is specifically responsible for in zone coverage, I like it. And you know what? Thank God we have a quality linebacker tandem that I think that could serve as an insurance policy. And guess what? We don't have a free safety on this team. For some reason, we're rolling out with 2 strong safeties as our tandem next year in 2025. So that's also a solid insurance policy. I think that this was a good pick for Buffalo. I like Trey Amos, but for some reason, I feel like Max was certainly the better pick. Troy, thoughts on Max Harrison? I'm sure you've done a lot of work on him during the pre-draft process.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. So I did have Will Johnson as corner 1, but we're all sitting here with the injury trying to figure it out.
Why? Because you're a Michigan fan.
His best corner in the draft. I don't know what you want me to do.
There's a reason why he's not drafted.
But to Dan, I had Harrison 3, so it worked out. It was right below Jahdae Barron. He was right there for me, and I think the big thing that you're talking about with the injury thing, it wasn't even that he just missed time. He was also dealing with it when he was playing in those games. And we did see it impact how he was tackling specifically. I never had an issue with his willingness. I never had an issue with his toughness specifically. We know that this past season, it truly impacted the way that he was even attempting to tackle players. We saw that when you watched him. So I think that actually does matter. I always felt when I watched Maxwell Harrison, because at one point I didn't mock Tyreek, but I mocked him to the Lions. I thought he had flexibility. I know you're probably going to live with him at corner. I thought he had flexibility to bounce around because of his skills. I thought you could throw him that safety in a pinch. You might be able to put him in the nickel if you want to because of his movement skills. And I think for what you guys have, we go back just a year ago, he was outstanding. He took the ball away a ton when he was consistently on the field. I think for the Bills defense, when you guys added Rasul Douglas, maybe a little bit of a different build, but that's what he was about, right? Rasul would take the ball away. He would anticipate things. He'd jump routes. I think if anything with Harrison, that's what you're trying to get back to, understanding that the concern with Harrison is the size, that he does get bumped off his routes, and that does throw him off. So the best thing you try to do is try to keep it so it's more about his eyes and his movement rather than having to deal with contact early. So I think for Buffalo, based on how they play, it makes sense because you're going to try to limit that action that he has to deal with. But Maxwell Harrison, look, if he was healthy this past year, this dude could have been cornerback 1 because he can play inside, outside. Like he could have easily went above Jahdae Barron. So I think you go a year ago, he's maybe looked at as cornerback 1 coming in. He was that good a year ago. And even this past year he played, and then we saw it impact the tackling as you brought up specifically.
So why do you think Will Johnson has fallen so far? Like, we've been hearing some people in my TikTok comments and stuff like that, man. Like, somebody said, like, Will Johnson fell because his knee is made like a Ritz cracker, somebody said, or a piece of paper. So I think what I've been hearing / reports is it's not necessarily something that would prevent him from playing this year, but they have questions about his longevity as far as the length of his NFL career due to said injury. What's thoughts on that from the number 1 Will Johnson fan on earth?
Man, you know what shocked me, Dan, is when he got to 22 and he didn't get picked by the Chargers. Because that whole time I'm sitting there thinking, I thought Minnesota was trying to jump up.
So Harbaugh recruited him,
and he didn't take him. So that, if there's anybody that knows about him skipping all of these things, it would be that guy. He would understand any of the concerns that would be there. So yeah, I mean, it's serious. Like that tells me that it's serious, and that's all that it is the injury related thing.
So Dan, you said we talk Lions, we just talk Bills, we talk Jets. How about we talk some Packers, because we have a Packers insider with us that wants to talk some Matthew Golden.
Dude, you know what? I would absolutely love to get Bass on right in the damn show. There he is.
Yeah, we have Dan Mitchell.
Dude, you know what, man? Like, you manifested it. And by the way, that TikTok video is going insane. I think it's at about 250,000 views right now.
Yeah, it's crazy. When we were there looking at the prospects, there were 2 guys that I singled out. It was Shamar Stewart and Matthew Golden, because I got to go talk to these guys, because I feel like either of those could be a Green Bay Packer. Obviously, Shamar coming off the board earlier to Cincinnati. Yeah. Golden was sitting there just ready for the Packers. I just watched the behind-the-scenes video of the Packers, like Mark Murphy walking out on the stage. And Gutekunst joked after the draft pick. He says, "That's not the name I wrote, but that's the name Mark Murphy said," obviously joking. But they posted a video to prove that, hey, it was Matthew Golden that we selected. And the aura behind watching Mark Murphy walk out there, announce, for the first time,
y'all went nuts,
2002, man. It was crazy, absolutely crazy. And Golden's a guy that I think can bring a lot to this offense. I really do.
So was he your first choice going into it?
It wasn't my first choice just because of the history. Like in terms of wide receiver, I didn't think Ted McMillan was a realistic option. I think there was some chance he could fall, but obviously he didn't. After him, Golden was my next best wide receiver, and I liked him early on watching the tape. But I didn't really begin to mock him to the Packers because, I mean, the history shows like they don't draft receivers in the first round. So I didn't think they were going to do it. It makes sense in Green Bay, I guess. But
and I remember telling Bass, because he was saying that exact thing history says. And I'm like, if there was a year to do it, it's this year. Like, you should take Matthew Golden. And I was at the hotel with all the prospects, and I told Bass, I told you yesterday, Dan, I was in the elevator with Matthew Golden. And it was just like this, like, I want to say awkward, but it was just like a feeling like I'm in an elevator with Matthew Golden. Like, I have to say something? I can't just like not say something. So I'm just like, you excited for Thursday, bro? He's like, yeah, man. I'm like, any idea where you're going? He's like, nah, bro, I don't know. I'm just excited for it. I'm like, well, good luck, man. He's like, appreciate it. And just to find out that he's a Green Bay Packer now. And I remember telling Bass, I'm like, bro, Matthew Golden is, if I'm a Packers fan, that's the guy I want them to go after. And it was cool that Bass was able to get an exclusive Roundtable Sports interview with Golden to ask him that question. And if you watch the interview, it's exploding right now on TikTok. He asked him, like, have you ever any contact with the Packers? And he's like, I'll keep that confidential.
He kind of
and you can tell right away, he's like, hey, that's where I'm going, but I can't say anything. He's media trained, you know that much.
His agent was probably like, yeah, if you're there 23, you're getting called. That's what I assume.
So biggest thing for me, right? Especially last night, like one of the slept on shockers for me is that so Igbuka went before Matthew Golden, particularly right over to Tampa Bay, right? Because like you could see Godwin, like he just re-signed. And in my opinion, I think Godwin's a hell of a lot like more effective in the slot, like by itself. So like you're like, all right, they need somebody opposite of Mike Evans. So I was thinking, you know, Golden would have to be the pick here. I was shocked that he ended up falling to you guys.
It's funny you say that because when we were live on the show, we were talking about where does Tampa go here? And I remember talking to Dose, and I'm like, the big comp for Igbuka is Godwin. And I was like, yeah, it kind of makes sense as like a replacement. Yeah, I know they resigned him, but a lot of teams draft for the future. And that's the comp I had for Igbuka, you know, guy that can play outside, but, you know, going to probably do better from the slot. Tampa Bay is loaded with weapons. I was happy he came off before Golden because I would rather have Golden because like you said, it's kind of a similar situation. Like we have Jaden Reed in the slot, right? Watson's out with an ACL. We need a guy that can, you know, take the top off a defense, be our deep threat receiver. We don't have that with Watson out. We simply don't. Like Romeo Dobbs isn't a burner. Tay Wicks isn't a burner. Jaden Reed's slot. We have Bo Melton, but like, are you really going to go into 2025 as like Bo Melton? Like, yeah, that's your new Christian Watson. Like shout out Bo Melton, like great role player, works his ass off, goes in run blocks, but you know, Matthew Golden is definitely an upgrade there.
And would you say Golden's going to be the number one receiver this year? Like in terms of targets and volume?
I don't know. That's hard to say. I think they're still going to like continue to really push the ball to Jaden Reed's, you know, way. Cause Matt LaFleur does so much with him, whether that's backfield work, jet motions, jet touch passes, end arounds and whatnot. It's hard to say. The Packers aren't typically a team that just pushes a rookie right away into stardom and goes, okay, here you go. You're our number one guy. I think his input into the team or his introduction into the team day one outside of receivers, kick return. This is a guy that did really well at kick return, not only at Texas, at Houston, mainly at Houston. And the NFL's incentivizing teams to kick it to the player. Now we move to 35 with a touchback. So we're going to be kicking to the players more and more this year, right? So Keyshawn Nixon was our traditional kick returner. He's all pro. He's all pro doing it. He has stated, hey, I kind of just want to play defense. I want to be our starting cornerback. So input Matthew Golden. He's going to get touches on offense. Do I think he leads in targets year one for the Packers wide receivers? Not so sure about that, but the Packers are so weird with the receivers. They don't have that prototypical number one guy, 100 targets. You know what I mean? They spread the ball around. They do so much. They move receivers around so much. And if I were to place a bet, like number one targeted guy, I think it's still Reed.
Now talk to me about day two targets, right? Because obviously, you know, shook the world with Matthew Golden last night. Like, where do you see the Packers going tonight?
Well, in a dream scenario, I would love to see a trade up in Trey Amos. He was a guy I actually thought they'd take in the first round. I think, Dan, you had a Trey Amos mock to the – I don't know if you did specifically, but I know a lot of people had a mock to the Bills. So him falling here is very intriguing. I don't think Will Johnson is under any realm of possibility for the Packers. I think if they loved him, they would have taken him at 23. I think the Chargers not taking him at 22 says a lot. With Jim Harbaugh there, right? He probably knows every bit of his medicals and might have actually talked to the actual doctor, his doctor, going, stay away from that. So I don't think Will Johnson's an option. Donovan Ezeraku is interesting because he played under defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley. He was mentored by defensive coach Vince Ogobasi, who's now on our coaching staff. He was at Boston College there, mentored Ezeraku. The height and weight's usually not what the Packers like, but his arm length is. So Trey Amos is an option. If they sit and pick, I really like TJ Sanders out of South Carolina. I think he really fits into the Packers mold. They usually draft for the future. This could be the last year of Kenny Clark. Fits right in at 3 tech. You have more pieces down low with Devontae Wyatt, Carl Brooks, get a nose tackle later in the draft. Amos, TJ Sanders. There's a couple other players I do like. Azariah Thomas maybe is an option there. I just don't know if the Packers really like him that much. Darian Porter feels like a Packers type. There's a lot of options. Here's the thing. Not many corners and not many edges came off that in the first round that we expected. So the Packers are sitting pretty right now. They got their receiver, and now they have to address edge. They have to address corner and defensive line. And I feel like the draft board's falling pretty well for that. So we could see a trade up, or maybe they just sit at 54.
Interesting. Very interesting. So for the Buffalo Bills perspective, man, I really wanted Kenneth Grant, but I feel like what I ultimately ended up doing was painting unrealistic expectations. I bought into all of the experts' mock drafts of having him fall to the area where we could ultimately end up grabbing him. Then Detroit shocks the world and takes Tyleik Williams, who is my defensive tackle number 2. So I'm not particularly sure where I want to select this player to see whether or not that he falls, but I feel like one of the only scheme fits for Buffalo at this point, need a nose tackle, need a one tech. It's Alfred Collins for me. Say that we could ultimately end up walking away with him with our back half of the second round pick. I'm feeling fine, but for some reason I have a feeling what Bean is going to do is find a way to finesse his way into the third round. And I think the best way to do that is to take our 62nd and then ultimately end up finding capital right into the third. So 56 is interesting. What are we going to do? Are we going to trade up slightly for like a Landon Jackson who has met with the Bills several times? In my opinion, I think that edge rusher, I think we completely go on ahead and just shift our focus to finding that guy next year in the early rounds. Yes, Bosa is only on a 1-year deal, but you still have AJ Epinesa. You still have Gregory Rousseau. We're fine in that department. One thing that I'm not sure a lot of people would be okay with, but I'm very high on this receiver. I think that he fits everything that we need. Kyle Williams out of Washington State, I believe, would be there at around 56.
That's my sleeper.
In a dream for me, we select Kyle Williams at 56, trade down to 62, and hopefully Alfred Collins falls to us in the early 70s once we start getting into the third round action. That's my big board for this evening. But who knows what Bean's going to do? Who knows?
Yeah, I agree. And Dan, Alfred Collins is a guy that Jets fans, including myself, are holding our breath that we can get in the third round as well.
Yeah.
You know, defensive tackle is a position of need for the Jets next to Quinton Williams, and we don't really have a run stuffer, and that's a guy that can come in here and absolutely be a menace next to Quinton Williams. So that's a guy I would love. And I think we're aligned. I think Kyle Williams for the Jets and Alfred Collins would be a lot of fun here. So we'll be competing for these prospects, but I want to get your thoughts real quick of day 2 targets of the tight ends, because Mason Taylor is available. Elijah Aurora is available. Colin Fannin, like, where do you think the tight end position is right now? Or do you think the Jets would be smart to go after a playmaker with their 10th overall pick tonight in the second round, or go back to the trenches? Because, you know, it was between Warren and Membu. We got our offensive lineman. So now do we go tight end around 2 like a Mason Taylor?
Me? Yeah, Dan. I was gonna say I
go ahead, Beth.
Yeah. Tight end makes sense. I mean, I was saying to Richie yesterday, I don't like tight ends in the first round. I'm very adamant about that. So I think the Jets didn't either. I think you saw that they're like, yeah, he was, you know, not really an option in there in the top 10. Tight end round 2 is definitely intriguing. I didn't do much research on tight end because, you know, we have Tucker Kraft over here in Green Bay and Luke Musgrave, some other options. I know Mason Taylor's intriguing. Harold Fannin, I mean, the production, it's at Bowling Green. So it's like, you know, how's that going to really translate? But last time the Packers drafted a player from Bowling Green with a ton of production was Carl Brooks, and that worked out pretty well so far. So Harold Fannin's definitely an option. I think could be an integral part to a new offense.
Jaden Higgins is another name that a lot of Jets fans want at that spot. And I think, you know, the Jets are looking for that number 2 next to Garrett Wilson. We still have Al Lazard on the team for some reason. we drafted Malachi Corley last year. He's more of a slot gadget type of guy. Yak machine, even though he did nothing as a rookie because he wasn't given an opportunity. So I think that Jaden Higgins makes a lot of sense for the Jets if he's available. Luther Burden, I think, is going to go to the Houston Texans, if I had to guess. They traded out of the first round. People are wondering how he fell out of the first round. I think Luther Burden's going to Houston. I'd be shocked if they don't go that direction. But if he's available for the Jets, I love him as well. So a lot of options, and we'll be live on Bass's channel, my channel, this channel, Roundtable Sports, tonight at Radio Row for day 2. We're excited about it, man. You want to wrap things up, Dan?
Yeah, for sure. Don't miss any of the action over here, man. Guys, by the way, I am living vicariously through you. I really hope you're enjoying your
man.
experience over there. Oh yeah, most definitely. I am. All right, dude. Honestly, like what I was thinking, since there's going to be a lot of the international games, and typically all of them are done consecutively for like a couple of weeks. Like, say that the Bills and the Steelers are in Ireland, and the week before it's the Jets game, and say the Packers are over there. Like, we should all just get a group, right? Like, take our wives or whatever, right, and just go on like a Euro trip. Get the credentials and just
TD
cover all of those
TD
games.
ain't coming. TD definitely ain't coming.
TD ain't leaving the
Oh,
country.
no. Well, yeah. Well, that or like he would probably like hold the world record for the shortest time ever spent right in that. Like TD would probably go, but like he would probably have like 5 consecutive round trips from each and every single game and just stay one day at a time. He would be record-breaking jet lagged.
Yeah, man.
That's crazy to me, man. It's still bothering me that man wanted to save $130 that bad that he had to fly into Chicago.
Yeah. You just flying
just to drive up to Green Bay.
Yeah. Yeah, that drive isn't fun. I've done it.
That's still bothering me. I'm like, TD, like, I would have been 130. Yeah. Yeah. Holy shit. All right. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Fourth and Forever Roundtable Sports. We'll see you this evening. See you tomorrow. Well, see you Monday. Same time, same place.
We'll see you guys tonight on this channel. It'll be me, Bass, and Dose of Dion, and got you covered all night long. Hit the like button on your way out. Peace out, folks.
Peace.